Okay, let's just jump right in. And for you, our listener, I should probably warn you, this topic might feel a bit like a punch to the gut.
Yeah, especially if you've ever, spent any time looking for ways to feel better about your circumstances. We're doing a deep dive into some sources that present this really radical challenge to modern comfort culture.
It's more than a challenge, it feels like an attack.
It's fiercely provocative. It basically refuses to accept the kind of gentle wisdom that's all over social media and bestsellers. Instead, it just takes direct aim at this whole industry of healing content.
And it doesn't just criticize it, it defines it as something much more sinister.
It calls it a trap, a sophisticated, deliberate trap designed to keep people weak, to maintain a sort of status quo of individual weakness.
That is a staggering claim, and it's one we really need to unpack to even begin to understand this viewpoint. So our mission today is to explore the mechanics of this thesis, what the source calls the specific curses this content uses to hold you back.
Right? Holding you back from difficult, painful, but ultimately lasting change. And, this isn't going to be a comfortable discussion.
Not at all.
Because the author here insists that the very path we're told is gentle is actually the path of, well, perpetual destruction. It ensures you stay dependent, not independent.
And the central thesis just hits you immediately. I mean, no punches pulled. The source material states it unequivocally.
It just says it.
Healing is a trap designed to keep you weak.
And when you just hear that sentence,
Mhm.
I mean, you put that right next to the whole culture of kindness and validation that we live in, and it's
It's jarring. It creates this huge cognitive dissonance.
it really forces you to stop and think. We're so used to associating healing with strength, with recovery. But this argument completely reframes it. It calls it a form of mental anesthesia.
Anesthesia. So it just numbs the pain.
Exactly. It manages the symptoms while the actual disease, the root problem, just spreads.
So if healing is the trap, what's the bait? What's the sweet poison this source material is warning us about?
The poison, according to this argument, is the very specific language that you see everywhere. Bookstores, social media, wellness apps. It's phrases that sound so supportive, like, your feelings are valid,
A classic.
or you are enough, just as you are. And of course, the big one, doing nothing is okay.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on that a little bit. I mean, those phrases, they sound like the absolute foundation of basic empathy, of mental health awareness. Isn't some level of validation essential? Is the source really saying that all kindness is bad?
That's the critical distinction it makes. It argues that when you consume these statements commercially, or, repeatedly, instead of taking action, they stop being kindness.
And they become what?
They become a curse whispering, stay weak forever.
Yeah.
The argument isn't against genuine human connection. It's against the self-help industry's profitable use of comfort.
Okay, so let's dig into that consequence. The source calls this feeling of temporary relief mental anesthesia.
And that analogy is just vital to this whole argument.
Yeah.
Anesthesia doesn't fix a broken bone, right? It just lets the surgeon operate without the patient screaming in pain.
So this content, it's not the medicine.
The source says it is not medicine. It's a drug. The relief is instant. You feel better right away. But the cost is immense because it stops you from feeling the very pain you need to feel to initiate change.
That necessary surgery of real change.
Exactly. So let's make this concrete. If you know deep down you need to learn new skills to get a better job, or you need to get out of a toxic relationship, that process is painful.
Excruciatingly painful.
And this anesthesia masks that specific pain, the pain of inadequacy, the sharp, discomfort of reality, forcing you to grow up to change.
So if you're sitting there, maybe you feel disrespected at work, your bank account is empty, the phrase, you are enough just as you are, actually hurts you.
According to this source, yes. It actively prevents you from doing the hard work. It protects your ego from the painful truth that in that specific area, you are currently not enough to solve the problem.
Wow, that brings us perfectly into the next part, because the source just radically shifts focus away from external factors. It rejects blaming the cruel world or the broken system.
Totally. It dismisses those as excuses. Instead, it introduces these two key structural concepts that put the responsibility squarely on the individual's lack of inner strength.
And the first one is called the power vacuum. How does that actually work in someone's life?
A power vacuum isn't a space where you're just randomly attacked. It's more of the structural weakness that invites negative things to happen.
So you create it yourself.
The source argues you do, by letting others sway you, or by just failing to build the strength to control your own life. Think about it. If you never negotiate your salary, or you let a family member constantly cross your boundaries, you haven't been attacked. You created a vacuum that their needs and wants just naturally fill.
So it's the absence of your own strength that leads to the negative outcome.
Precisely.
And that lack of strength has real-world consequences. Which brings us to the next term, result value. This sounds very technical.
It is, but it's simple. The source says your negative reality, the empty bank account, the bad relationship, is a result value accumulated from your own poor choices. It's not fate, it's accounting.
Accounting, I like that. So it's like a ledger.
It's an objective calculation. You chose convenience over doing the hard thing 100 times. The result value is you fail when the challenge finally arrives. The numbers don't lie.
So the sadness or frustration you feel isn't the real problem.
No, that's just a symptom. The problem is the objective, measurable consequence of 1,000 tiny compromises you made. It's the ledger.
This is an incredibly harsh assessment. And it makes accepting comfort even more dangerous in this view. So if someone says, oh, it's not your fault, the pain might fade for a minute, but what's the real cost? What are you losing internally?
You're losing the only thing that can fix the result value. You're losing your fighting spirit.
Your fighting spirit.
The source says that when that comfort comes in, the energy you need to reclaim your power is, and this is a quote, castrated.
That's a strong word.
It's meant to be. That fighting spirit is the engine that lets you tolerate discomfort now for gain later. Comfort just takes all the fuel out of that engine. You're left feeling calm, but you're also completely stuck.
Let's talk more about this energy economy. Section 3 in the source really dives into what happens to the energy that you should be using to fix your result value. Where does it go?
It's not saved, it's wasted, it's squandered. The source says the finite energy you have for changing your reality gets diverted. It's spent on these internal loops of self-pity and cheap comfort.
So you're just thinking, ruminating, watching videos that tell you you're okay.
Instead of applying that energy externally to actually fix the problem, it's an energy drain that just creates more and more inertia.
So you're in this state of emotional numbness. You're protected by the mental anesthesia. But what's happening to your actual physical reality in the meantime?
And this is where the source uses this really powerful kind of gross metaphor. It says, while you're high on this numbness, your reality rots further.
What does a rotting reality look like? Let's make that really clear.
Rot isn't a sudden explosion. It's slow. It's compounding. While you're busy validating your feelings, your debt doubles. The health issue you're ignoring becomes chronic. The relationships you've neglected just wither and die.
The disrespect at work becomes permanent.
It becomes part of the culture. Everything objective, painful, and measurable just decays because the energy needed to maintain it was spent feeling sorry for yourself.
Which leads, inevitably, to a devastating cycle of dependency. Because the reality keeps rotting, so eventually the numbness has to wear off.
It always does. The objective truth of your situation just forces its way back in. You have to face that magnified result value.
And what do you do then, when the pain is too much?
You reach for the familiar solution. You open your wallet and buy another dose of comfort, a new book, a new course. You reinforce the very cycle that's destroying you. You never build the inner resources to break the pattern.
Because that moment of pain, the catalyst for change, is always immediately medicated away.
Always.
And this analysis of the dependency cycle takes us into the most cynical and controversial claim in the whole thing. The source says this isn't just you sabotaging yourself, it's a professional structural system.
This is the core of the trap. That the providers of this endless comfort, the coaches, authors, gurus, they are structurally dependent on you staying broken.
That's a really harsh accusation. Why would an industry that says it's about healing need you to stay damaged?
So the logic is pure market dynamics. If you achieve genuine, robust, self-sustaining strength, you leave the market.
You're not a customer anymore.
You're not. People who can stand on their own do not need a savior. A successful self-help consumer is a departed customer. So for the business model to work, the providers need you to stay a patient, a client on a subscription.
So the system is incentivized to only treat symptoms, never offer the real cure, because that would eliminate the revenue stream.
Exactly. Perpetual patienthood. If content offers you a quick, hard path to self-reliance, you're a one-time sale. But if it offers soothing validation, that just manages the pain while making sure you never actually fix the result value.
You're a lifelong subscriber.
You are. It casts the entire commercial healing industry as a system that requires perpetual weakness to survive.
Which raises the biggest question of this whole deep dive. If the comforter, the validation industry, is not your true ally, who is or what is?
The true ally is defined entirely by their willingness to introduce pain, to introduce shock and challenge, not comfort. The source explicitly contrasts the gentle, hand-holding comforter with the necessary force of a true ally.
And that ally doesn't offer a hug, they offer a question. A really uncomfortable confrontational question.
That's right. A real ally, according to this, doesn't pat your back and say your feelings are valid. They look at your rotting reality, at the result value, and they ask the question that hits the power vacuum directly.
Which is,
How long do you plan to live this powerlessly?
that is a striking difference. It shifts the focus instantly from how you feel to what you're going to do.
It shifts from emotional processing to behavioral commitment. And the goal of that painful question is what the source calls the awakening.
Yeah.
It says the true ally strikes your bone to awaken your dormant wildness. And that's not just poetry. It's describing an internal shift. The dormant wildness is your innate capacity for confrontation, for setting hard boundaries, for tolerating massive discomfort to get results.
For embracing risk.
All of it. And true growth, reclaiming control, it doesn't come from baby steps. It comes from the shock that forces this wildness, this inherent power, to rise up and finally deal with the result value of accumulated.
So it's the only path, according to this source, that bypasses the mental anesthesia. It requires you to accept the pain of your reality as a signal for immediate action.
A signal to act, not a reason to seek comfort.
So, after all this, what does this incredibly critical perspective mean for you, the listener? We've basically laid out a fundamental conflict. The choice between momentary comfort, the anesthesia, and the difficult, painful path of reawakening this dormant wildness.
It really demands that you apply a critical lens to everything you consume for relief.
Yeah.
You have to ask, is this actually helping me solve the root problem? Or is it just keeping me numb enough to stay a paying customer for the next dose?
It's a powerful challenge. And if the very act of seeking relief is eating up the energy you need to solve the problem, then you have to ask yourself, what immediate, uncomfortable, non-comforting action could you take right now to start cultivating your own strength?
To reclaim your power.
And address the objective reality that, according to this source, is currently rotting. The goal isn't to feel better, it's to become stronger.
And here's a final thought, building on that. If your pain is the signal that your environment requires change, and comfort is the mute button for that signal, what would your life look like 1 year from now if you stopped hitting mute? If you just started executing the painful, necessary changes it demands? That's the real choice here.